All right, the weather is ass, but so are the headlines.
Donald Trump's tariffs.
New tariffs on Mexico, Canada.
Tariffs, the never-ending story.
And this tariffs conversation is not new. In case y'all don't remember, this is Trump's second time being president.
When President Trump put tariffs on
washing machines, we're going to benefit our consumers, and we're going to create a lot of jobs.
To give y'all a more informed perspective, I interviewed Michael Linden. He's the Senior Policy Fellow at the Washington Center for Equitable Growth and the former Executive Associate Director at the Office of Management and Budget.
People's eyes immediately glaze over. But it's actually super important because it impacts every single thing in people's lives, and maybe you don't even realize it. But the basic story is that for the last 25 years, Congress, mostly, and I'll be very explicit, mostly Republicans, but not exclusively Republicans, have been pursuing a policy of cutting taxes. Big ones like individual income tax, that's like April 15th, you send in your return, right? Individual income tax, but also corporate income taxes. They have basically been cutting those two big chunks of our tax code disproportionately for rich people. Everybody is today, on average, is paying lower taxes than they were 25 years ago. But rich people are paying a lot lower taxes, like a lot lower taxes. And everybody else is paying like a little bit lower taxes. And for many people, they don't even notice it. It's so small, and their income changes so much it's not really a big impact. And so part of the reason that we're talking about tariffs is that they need to replace some of the revenue that they have been giving away to rich people, largely for the last 25 years, with some new source of revenue.
Think of something that costs roughly $800. For me, that's a PS5. I've secretly wanted one for a long time. If you're not a gamer, picture something else that's expensive. Now picture somebody took that amount of money away from you every year. It's a rough estimate, but the Tax Foundation estimates that these tariffs Trump's talking about are going to take that much money out of your paycheck this year. It's a big if all these tariffs he's proposing go into effect. The goal of these tariffs is to make America independently dominant. That acronym is a coincidence. I'm not saying this philosophy comes exclusively from people who can afford maids. Let me break it down in a real scenario. I'm gonna start skipping the dictionary definitions, but they'll be on screen from time to time, and they're always in the sources in the description. Imagine you're selling shoulder strap bags in Atlanta, right? Like the type that got popular somewhat recently, again, because we didn't invent anything and fashion is cyclical. You source your materials right up the street and you got custom pins in it or whatever. You're feeling the pressure because Mitch down the street is selling custom bags that are cheaper and are assembled in China or Indonesia, and they come already put together. So there's no setup required on his end. Less labor, less costs. Tariffs are a fee on those imported bags. So that's going to cost Mitch more to run that business. That's good news for you, technically, right? The problem is these tariffs are also used as a tactic to strong arm our allies. We got Trump threatening tariffs of 25% on Canada and Mexico, who we happen to share a continent with. Oh, he did this after he renamed the Gulf of Mexico because he felt like it. And those 25% tariffs are about to hike the cost of cars up like crazy. The estimate is like $5,800.
After the tariffs, not only did the price of imported washing machines go up, so did the ones made in the U.S.
There's this myth out there that if we tax imports, domestic producers won't change their prices. And that's not the case. You're creating more demand for them.
American companies are greedy as hell, and if they have an opportunity to raise their prices for any reason, they're gonna take it.
And it wasn't just washers. Dryers went up in price too, even though they weren't part of the tariffs.
Steel and aluminum are on the list of those proposed tariffs. And last time I checked, that's like 75% of the ingredients necessary to build a minivan. That's just the fallout from the tariffs on our neighbors. We've always been shaky with China, but I hope I don't have to explain to y'all how many things in your closet and kitchen and the rest of your house are produced there. We announced a 10% tariff on them. Well, Trump did. We import 99% of our shoes. This is not a situation where we can flip a switch and suddenly fill that supply gap. It's not happening. I did the research into which brands are built here in America, and it's not looking great. Sneakerheads gonna have to go to the mall and buy like New Balance. I'm not hating on New Balance. I actually like them. I got a pair in my closet. But what I'm saying, you get the point. Maybe you don't care about shoes though. That's fair. What you do care about is food. Basically, all food is about to go through the roof if these tariffs go into action. I'm gonna put that list on screen while I do something else so y'all can read it at your own pace.
What's being discussed here is a basically a sales tax on everything that comes into this country. Bananas from South America. The United States does not have a thriving banana growing industry. There's no banana workers in the United States that we are trying to protect. That's just going to make people's grocery bills go up.
I eat Chipotle sometimes, and it's already expensive enough. I don't need this. What? He changed his mind. Again? So now he's talking about a reciprocal trade tariff.
And today, Donald Trump signed an order imposing sweeping reciprocal tariffs on every country that charges duties on U.S. imports. And in this case, Canada was not the primary target.
This is a little kid making global foreign policy decisions based on eye for an eye bullshit. He's just announcing things as a threat to other countries before he does the studying behind the scenes and rolls out a plan that's been tested, vetted, studied, etc. You don't make global announcements about your policy and lead to other countries talking about, hey, we about to do the same thing back to you like Trudeau did.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
This is why we said he wasn't qualified. Moving on. You know what else Canada gives us? Energy. They're actually our #1 energy trading partner. Crude oil, natural gas, electricity. It doesn't matter. All of it's going to get hiked if these tariffs touch down. I've heard conservatives saying the same thing over and over as the reality set in, that prices were going to be high. First, prices are going to hike, and then they're going to stabilize and normalize as we produce more in America and everything evens out. And I hear you. That would be a dope outcome if it was even a little bit realistic. Basically, every CEO from every company you shop at, whether periodically or every day, has already said they're going to pass on these increased costs to consumers. That's us. Some CEOs, like Jürgen Otto, he's a German CEO from a company making printing presses, said you can't take everything he says seriously. That's what world leaders and CEOs think about your boy. This is not a theory. Other countries, as I showed you earlier in the video, have already announced responses to our tariffs. China announced a 15% tariff on crude oil, natural gas, and farm equipment, to list a few. And that's going to directly impact small businesses here on the home front, people who produce things. Have I covered everything? It's kind of hard to do when your boy is racking up announcements faster than he's racking up felonies, but I think we did a pretty good job summarizing everything. Some people are trying to prepare for tariffs from a president that they fear. Other people are hesitant to do anything because they know how often he changes his mind and they don't take him seriously. These tariffs are not going to make us stronger as a country. They're going to hike prices on damn near everything we use and cut us off from allies we've had for, I don't know how long, but longer than I've been alive. At the beginning of the video, I said these tariffs were intended to make us independently dominant. And that sounds great to a lot of people, but you know what else is independently dominant? A violent father with a job. The worst part is that Trump is going to blame everybody else once it starts happening. I hate it here, bro. So I got a new tier on my Patreon called Detectives. Shout out to Christian Hine. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but let me know, I'll correct it. Everybody in that tier gets a shout out by name in every single video.
Let's be more concrete. If they were paying what they were used to pay in the year 25 years ago or 40 years ago, we would have literally trillions of additional dollars that we could be using to invest in healthcare, education, community services, public safety, firefighting, not to mention something that's a little bit, on our minds today.